We are back with another Friday edition ad podcast late night here in California. It's 4:00. Kate is joining us from Ohio. Kate Weatherly is a Fractional Chief Marketing Officer, and I found out today she's also a marketing influencer on TikTok. I thoroughly enjoyed her content on TikTok. You should definitely give her a follow there and see some of the unhinged social marketing talk. So Kate, the one thing that I was super fascinated about going through your background is the fact that you dropped out of school and started working for a startup. I'm fascinated by that idea. I kind of flip-flop because I went to college and I definitely didn't learn anything, but I joined a fraternity and made a lot of friends. I got some soft skills and I bought myself a nice network, but at the end of the day, my parents paid for it. I didn't have to go into debt for it. So, that's cool. I definitely tell my daughters, and I will tell my son, I'm like, hey, look, you want to go to school, you want to be a doctor, lawyer, something that requires school, fine. I would love to give you the money for college to go do a startup or buy a rental property or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd be down to do that too. So just would love to get your take on it, because I think you have proven that you are, out earning the medium, like in the female income brackets, and you've obviously been super successful from it. My old founder of Channel Factory was 19 when he dropped out of Rice and started Channel Factory. It's now a $1.2 billion media buying operation for YouTube media buying. So the stories are ripe with success. I imagine there's probably some downside too. And I know that's a little bit of a long preamble, but would love to get your take on it.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, Dylan, this is what I tell people when we talk about college. Unless you have your kidney punctured, or you need to solve for that, or you need to solve for someone having their kidney punctured, then go to college. Or if you are to build a bridge, go to college. Major infrastructure or medicine, go to college. But everything else can now, in the digital age, you can learn online. Period. If you have the grit and the tenacity and the will to do it, you will. So when people ask me, hey, like, how do I go about learning what you've learned? I say, Google it. Hello. So when I was 16, trying to put together some kind of career path for myself, I Googled, right? I Googled things like, how do businesses earn money, right? We start with the basics. And when it all came together, I landed on marketing. So that kind of leads into the answer to your question, which is like, how did I navigate this landscape without college? And I actually started in college. I pursued a degree at Kent State in marketing, and that's in Ohio, by the way, for those of you that don't know. And I went I was grinding. I could barely afford parking at the college. And I was like, it was just wearing down on me to a point where I was irritated. I was looking for a reason to jump ship, right? And so, long story short, I met a guy that worked at a neighboring college. He was working on a tech product. He was building a virtual tour tech product, which at the time, virtual tours were not mass adopted yet. But I saw the potential and I told him, hey, I'm studying marketing. And he said, we need a marketer on our team. And I was like, okay, so I'm in, count me in. So all of a sudden now we're like raising funding. And I was like 21 or 22. Like I had never done this before, but I had the tenacity. I was like, you know what? Let's do it. So we go to John Carroll, which was the neighboring college, and we go to their entrepreneurship department. We're giving them our whole pitch. And you know how tech guys are, like typically they're very like back of house and like not super sociable. So they kind of put me front of house and I was like the presenter, right? So I go to the entrepreneurship panel at John Carroll and I was explaining to them how like Google Analytics and Google Ads were changing the game. And this was back in like 2016, right?
Hmm.
When it was cutting edge. And they actually offered me a scholarship. So there's a plot twist here, right? So they offered me a full ride scholarship, and I think I was overwhelmed, right? I was like, okay, I'm paying for Kent State and I can't afford parking. I can't afford to eat 3 meals a day and I can't afford my rent. But this neighboring college is offering me money because I gave a good presentation. So I was
Wow, that's a cool story.
I know. So I was really lost with that. And I actually, the decision I landed on was there must be something I have of value that they want if they're willing to basically wipe my tuition off the books. And so I took a huge leap of faith. And that's going to be a common theme today is like the leap of faith. Um, and I was like, you know what? Fuck them both.
That's wild. So
Yeah.
not only did you drop out, but then you turned down a full ride at another school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, look, I think it's smart. Honestly, Gary V, I'm definitely a Gary V bro. And, he always says that the early years of your life, 16 to 21, that's when you should be taking the most risk, not doing something that's safe and, basically sitting inside of some bubble for 4 years, studying how to do something. Just go out and do it,
Yes, for
take
sure.
risks.
I got really pissed when I went into a lecture room for a class at Kent State and they were teaching us how to make a LinkedIn profile. I was like, y'all seriously? I'm paying you for this? We have
Wow.
Google. So yeah, there's also a huge blessing in being coming up in the age of information.
Totally. No, I love that. All right. So, how many years did you go to school? And then you were 21. So, did you go for like I'm guessing with ages, but it sounds like you were like almost 2, 3 years in.
No, I think I was about a year in, maybe
Okay.
6 months to a year. I'd have to check, but it wasn't very long.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So then you go to this startup. I'm guessing as the marketing head.
Yep.
Okay. And then tell me a little bit about your career from when you joined that marketing position at that tech startup up to what you're doing now as a fractional CMO and running your own agency. And you don't have to tell me, every step, but give me some of the highlights.
Okay, I'll give you the highlights. So we were, as part of this tech startup, we actually joined an incubator. Um, I got us our first 10 customers. I was learning new digital methods for getting customers. Cold email was big, social media was big, a lot of, grinding and sales outreach. I learned a lot from that experience. So, long story short, other people in that community reached out to me. I was getting referrals essentially. People were like, hey, can you re implement what you just did there over here? And frankly, and ironically, I haven't had to do any marketing for my consultancy because people just, that's it. Like people
Just
just
word of mouth.
word of mouth referrals because when you have the key to the landscape, it just happens naturally. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I love that. I did notice that you were a little hard to do research on because there isn't a lot of marketing out there other than your TikTok, which I found fascinating. Spent some time
Awesome.
on
I'm
it.
glad you liked
Yeah, no, it's great.
it.
So you've obviously been active on TikTok, and what I loved about your TikTok is it's a blend of the personal and the professional. Like you're giving professional advice, but you're also doing stuff that kind of blends in with your social life a little bit, or your personal life, or giving people a little bit of a look behind the scenes of what it's like to be a female young entrepreneur. Were you intentional in that? Like, were you intentional in like kind of blurring the lines to some degree and not making it just like a straight professional profile?
A little bit, yeah. So I designed my TikTok profile really to show that side of me because I want people to look at it to get to know me, right?
Mm.
It's kind of like getting you from the beginning of the sales funnel to the end really quick, right? I will say that's the only social media platform where I do show my authentic self,
Mm.
because here's another reason: TikTok demands authenticity. The Gen Z, obviously, Gen Z is hugely on TikTok. Authenticity is their whole primary. So,
Yep.
so if you want to reach them, you have to be authentic on that platform.
I love that. So LinkedIn is taking off as a social media platform. It's not just a place where people post their resume and look for sales leads and talk about their new job and talk about the awards they won. It is becoming a place for authentic professional content, for lack of a better word.
Mhm.
My biggest audience is there, 31,000. I get between 1,000 and 4,000 streams of this podcast on LinkedIn.
Nice.
That's mainly where I go live. I feel like a lot of your content, if you just repost it to LinkedIn as vertical, and there's now a vertical video tab on the LinkedIn mobile app. Have you experimented at all with similar content on your LinkedIn?
So, okay, Dylan, I have a short video agency.
Oh, sick.
So I just noticed that LinkedIn dropped their video platform, and I was
Mhm.
kind of waiting for it. I was like, "Are they gonna do it? Are they gonna pull the trigger?" And they
Yeah,
did.
it's been in beta.
Yeah, and so right now I'm in research mode on LinkedIn,
Mm,
and it's tricky because LinkedIn still does have this sort of, it's like a people have a predisposition to be professional on there.
hmm
People also have a stigma around professionalism where they can't be authentic. So I feel like we need some kind of like market disruption or like some kind of change in culture before people are truly authentic on LinkedIn. And maybe the addition of video to LinkedIn will solve that problem. Like you said,
Yeah.
maybe people will repost their personal content and it'll be a more authentic platform. For me, I'm a little bearish on it. Because
Interesting.
because some of the connections I have on LinkedIn, I don't think they would appreciate my
Huh.
personal life.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's definitely a blend. I've definitely leaned into the more personal, more authentic LinkedIn. I didn't do it ever when I was an employee. When I was an employee, I didn't feel it was appropriate because I was representing a company. But now that I'm a business owner and a consultant and a fractional as well, I feel like it's part of my personal brand, and people either like me or they don't, and they know what they're going to get. And, I don't market myself, so to speak, for my consulting practice either. It's all word of mouth or inbound on LinkedIn for my LinkedIn content or the podcast. And what's really interesting is I interviewed another Alley Oop. For those that you don't know, Alley Oop is a sales agency that helped set up this interview, and they've helped me set up a lot of my recent interviews. And they set me up with this 21-year-old Irish kid named Tony Brophy out in Ireland. And this is a kid that basically just like he wanted to get his first SDR job, and he basically just started like talking to the camera on LinkedIn, like full TikTok raw
Nice.
style.
I love
And
that.
he amassed 11,000 followers really fast. Got to meet like the biggest sales leaders all over America, and has done really well. And also, my podcast with him, just from one single repost, it's the sixth most watched episode in the history of my show, and I've done, as of today, 80 episodes. And
Wow.
I've interviewed Beyonce's dad. I've interviewed the
Well,
CMO.
Dad.
I mean, it's random, but I did. I've interviewed Beyonce's dad. I've interviewed Neil Patel from Neil Patel Digital. He's
Neil.
a huge marketing influencer.
Yes.
I've interviewed the CMO of Rocket Mortgage. So this 21-year-old kid who's just been authentic LinkedIning, he's beat them all, or he's the sixth most popular out of 80 shows, and that's with not all the long tail views that those other guests got.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm gonna say I'm a bull. I'm a bull for LinkedIn vertical video and authenticity.
Yeah.
Um, the one area that I think it's a little challenging right now on the video tab is that it feels very curated.
Mhm.
I don't know if they're just letting any video get into the video tab. I don't know if it's algorithmic. I don't know if it's like a whitelisted group of creators, but you see a lot of like Martha Stewart's and Shark Tank people and like more like celebrity B2B
Yeah.
people versus
Martha
like
Stewart
users.
surprises me.
Yeah. hmm
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So
Well,
I wanted to, oh, good.
oh, I was just gonna say maybe, maybe my being bearish on LinkedIn is just a limiting mindset. Maybe you've switched me over.
Let's
Maybe.
go. I hope so.
I like that. Yeah.
So, well, let's talk about Instagram then. How do you show up on Instagram?
Instagram, well, let me preface this. I show up on the platform as the audience expects you to show up,
Yeah.
right? For each respective platform. So for Instagram, I'm posting aesthetic photos mostly. That's it.
Mm,
If I go to a networking event, I'll post a photo. If I go to a concert, I'll post a photo. For a while, I just went on posting pictures of neon signs, right? Just looking for that feed aesthetic. I think Instagram is lacking in the area of their video algorithm right now.
mm,
And at one point I wanted to bring up was the fact that they're actually limiting quality for videos that don't perform well right off the bat.
wow.
And I just saw a few news articles come out about this. So they actually take down like the quality of like the pixelation. Do you know what I'm saying?
hmm
And they won't increase the quality of the video until it gets a certain amount of views.
No
So
way.
to me, that says they're trying to like save money on bandwidth or something. Like that's so
Yeah, that's really interesting. Something that I noticed today that was kind of weird was that how fast you can upload to like I uploaded a 12-minute podcast as a reel to Instagram and it almost uploaded like instantly. And then I go to TikTok and it probably took 10 minutes for the same upload. Then I went to YouTube and it probably took 20 minutes and LinkedIn took 10 and X took like 45 minutes.
yeah,
But Meta has solved upload and I wonder like I just don't understand how like it's the same bandwidth. Like how does the app accept videos faster when it's the same size? But another little technical thing.
yeah, I think they're up to something, but that's for another day to discuss.
Yeah, for sure. How about YouTube Shorts? Are you a fan? Are you posting on Shorts?
Yes,
Nice,
my short video agency posts to shorts for all kinds.
nice. Got
Um,
it.
it's good. So the way I describe, there's sort of a hierarchy of the short video algorithms. TikTok obviously leads. Um, so I let our clients know that, hey, if something performs well on TikTok, it's going to perform well on the other platforms. And I know you've seen this too, Dylan. Like when you go on Instagram, you see TikToks that were there 6 months ago on TikTok, and now you're seeing it again on Instagram. It's just a delayed. It's not current landscape. TikTok is
Mm,
very current landscape. They're very on top of it. They're promoting everybody's content quickly. So it's a better measure for marketing metrics to post to TikTok first or
cool.
prioritize in general if you don't have the resources to put into all 4 or 5.
Got it. Um, I thought it was interesting. You talked about the idea of like just Google it, right? Like that's such a simple concept, but right so often, like go and do your research, and that's how I prepare for the show. Is I'm try and consume everything I can find about a guest. Page one of Google, basically. Listen to every podcast they've ever been on. I watch every video I can find of them. Obviously, I watched all your TikToks today. Read all the articles that they've written, anything that's on page one, and I try and get to 10 or 20 questions. Um, have you thought, like, have you replaced the idea of Googling people with the idea of chat GPTing people or AI searching for people? Like, how much is AI kind of supplementing what you used to do on Google?
I love that question. I am right in the middle of researching the answer to this question. And
Mm,
part of it is intuition, part of it's experience. Um, we don't know what the chat GPT models look like. And that's the challenge. It's very similar to the short video algorithms. It's like, okay, we know that when we put something to search to chat GPT, the results are uncanny. Like, it's crazy how much chat GPT can pull from the web. But where are they pulling it from? We don't know the answers to those questions yet. So generally speaking, the short answer is yes, I think ChatGPT is slowly going to replace Google as a search engine.
Mm,
And I think that businesses, in order to align themselves properly and to have a competitive advantage, should go for a volume of content, right? Because if you have a volume of content, no matter what, you're going to win in the search game, whether it be Google, ChatGPT, or whatever else.
yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm still not like, I don't really use ChatGPT for search yet. I use it for like, basically the only thing I use ChatGPT for is when anybody asks me to do something that I think is bullshit, I put it into ChatGPT. So if they're like, "Hey, go write me a sales proposal," I'm like, "Fine, ChatGPT will do it." You know, can you give me a point of view on, like things that normally would have taken me time to do that I'm just like annoyed by? Like I'll just go to ChatGPT, have them do it, and then I'll put my little spin on it. So it's almost like my busy work killer, I suppose, for lack of a better
I
word.
love that for you. I do the same.
Nice. All right, let's talk about B2B marketing because you've done both B2B and B2C. One of your TikToks that I really loved was the one that was talking about like boomer approach to B2B marketing. Like, hey, boomer, get rid of your white paper and your
Yeah.
lead magnet and your webinar. Like, people are buying from people. Gen Z are the buyers now. I mean, yeah, you probably have Gen Xers that are CMOs and C-suite, but the front line is Gen Z and millennial,
Mhm.
and they do not. I've never read a white paper,
Mhm.
and I'm a millennial, but I do watch a lot of sales humor videos, and I do
I
watch a
love
lot,
those ones.
yeah, and I listen to a lot of like podcasts from like sales trainers and sales gurus and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and I look at a lot of LinkedIn posts. So, how should B2B be approaching marketing in today's landscape as they're going after this new profile of B2B buyer?
Okay, great question. I have a few different answers. Number one, you should always call your ideal customer, no matter what.
Mm,
Call 100 of your ideal customers. I don't care if you have to bang people's doors down, go into your friends' networks, your colleagues' networks, whatever. Call 100 millennials and ask them, hey, do you have a need for X? If so, where would I find you looking for it? That's a really simple answer to that question. And that's the most accurate data you could ever get. It's just to call your freaking prospect customers, right? Um, More generally speaking, um, I know I had a TikTok about webinars. I spoke briefly about this, and I've had a change of heart. So webinars, webinars are great, but webinars are oversaturated. So as
mm,
a marketer, over the last 5 years or so, we've shifted from sort of like general topics for webinars. We've pivoted, we've turned them into challenges, right? So, what I'm learning as far as like webinars for B2B sales is that millennials want to make immediate change because millennials like things fast, right?
mm.
No patience. I mean, I can speak for myself. I have um, zero patience. So they want something they can participate in and gain from, get value from right then and there, like
Mm.
zero wait time. So they don't want someone to get on a camera and pontificate for an hour and a half. Like millennials don't want that, right? So that's a huge note. Um, Cold email, we could touch on that. Um, Cold email, I'm not going to say cold email is dead because I've had a lot of success with cold email, um, but it is definitely a greater lift than it was 5 years ago. Um, I guarantee millennials don't check their email as often as boomers check their email. Um, we don't gatekeep and hold down fort with our email in such a way that boomers have in the past. So it's a different vibe. Um,
Yeah. I think also like what was really interesting about my approach to millennials, and I am one, but I'm the oldest millennial. Um, a lot of us would come into our positions, and back before COVID, when we had desks and phones, we would take our first day of work, we would take our phone and we would unplug it and put it in a drawer because we knew all that was going to come through were like cold calling sales guys.
yeah,
So, but there are companies like Alley which put you and I in touch, who actually, they have ways of getting people's cell phone numbers. And when they get people on the phone and they talk to them on their cell phones, they're actually really um, engaging enough that I hired them and did a marketing partnership with them to book guests for the podcast. What do you think? Do you think the phone is going to come back this year?
I think that if you catch people, I don't think cold calling really ever will die.
Mm,
As long as there's some kind of medium, even if it's not cold calling, anything that follows cold calling, anything that is similar to cold calling. If you catch somebody at the right time in the right place with a pain point, you've got 3 out of 4 marketing 101 right there, right? If you can reach someone and you have the message that they want to hear, it's going to be successful, right? And cold calling has always been a volume game, and I think that that's really the case when it comes to cold email, cold calling. Obviously, quality of the call, quality of the lead all come into play, but it's a volume game at the end of the day.
Have you been experimenting with the AI generated outbound email sequences? They're getting pretty scary. Like I used one called reply.io, and they rolled out their AI SDR as a free feature for a period of time. And I at first, when AI came out for sales, I'm old school. I used to be a hardcore boiler room cold caller. Now I'm a little bit more sophisticated, I guess. But when I heard about AI and like the automation stuff, I was like, oh, this is going to suck. It's going to make more noise. It's just going to make us all harder to break through. And then a buddy of mine was like, hey, just go try it, dude. Like, write a sales sequence, write your best sales sequence you can, and just A B test yourself against the AI. And I did it, and I failed on opens, replies, meetings, books, and pipeline miserably. Like now I've completely given up, and I'm 12 inboxes AI all day. And
Wow.
I just show up to the calls. I don't even know what's in my calendar because it takes it all the way to booking a meeting for me. So I was curious, how have you been experimenting with the AI cold?
Yeah. So I have experimented with AI chatbots. So imagine the workflow is Facebook ad, AI chatbot to close, right?
Mm,
That actually worked. I was shocked. We had to train it for, and I wish I could tell you what the company name was. I don't remember. Um, but we had to train it for maybe a few weeks. And it got to a point where we have leads in. We have people that have
wow,
paid us money because the AI closed them. And I
that
will
is wild.
it was in the beginning, it looked like, I was apprehensive. I was like, this is absolute crap. It's not going to work. But it did. It was
That's
trained.
crazy.
So yeah, we have to admit that it's something. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy about it, honestly. Like, if I can spend less time emailing and more time like on the phone doing podcasts or on the phone with customers, or like this week I was at a founders event for 2 days, completely away from my inbox, not looking at it. And I come back the next today, and I had meetings from like the minute I woke up to the minute I went to sleep,
that's
because
amazing.
it was doing everything in the background. So yeah, it's crazy. All right. What's your best deal closing story? Like, do you have a story of when you you took a customer out, or, you had to like really pull out the red carpet or do something crazy to get a deal or get your foot in the door with a client or something like that?
That's a good one. Um, I'm sure I have a bunch of examples, but I'll tell you one of my favorite tactics.
Nice.
Okay, so when I really need to close a sale, what I'll do is I will reach out to everyone that that person knows, right? So prospect, let's call him Chris. Okay, I need to get a hold of Chris. Chris isn't answering. I know Chris wants this service, but he's busy, clearly. I'm going to call all of Chris's friends. I'm going to blow them up. I'm going to say, listen, Chris was supposed to talk to you, so you better tell him he needs to give me a call because I'm losing my.
Wow.
It's sort of like a form of like social edification and bullying at the same time. It just like works out for me sometimes. So that's the best I've got for a
I
tactic.
love it.
Mine.
That's actually really good. That reminds me of like back in the day when, LinkedIn connection, similarities were kind of meaningful. Like I would look, if I'm trying to get to a certain person and I see on LinkedIn we have 10 common friends, I would send all 10 of those people an introduction request. And that worked pretty good for a while. But then as LinkedIn became more robust and people had more and more connections, like I would get a lot of replies back that was like, oh, I don't even know that guy. We're just connected on LinkedIn or something
Yeah,
like that.
Dylan, I have a great
And
segue right there.
okay. Yeah, hit me.
But so here's what I think is going to come with social media verification, right?
Mm.
We have blockchain now, and we have AI, and we have location services. I expect these things to converge at some point soon, where we'll have there won't be so many like ingenuine connections on social media.
Oh,
Right? So
wow.
that's the pain point you were just speaking to. I think we're going to get to a point where everyone that has like a million followers that paid for their followers is going to get caught with egg on their face
Wow.
because
Wow.
people. I mean, think about it. Facebook has their verification badge. LinkedIn has it. Twitter has it. So it's like clearly they're going to integrate it with blockchain next.
Yeah, the bots are going to get found out.
Yes, absolutely.
That's sick.
That was just
Yeah,
a side margin.
that'd be no, I love it. That's a great prediction. I think it's definitely relevant. One thing that would happen that was kind of cool when I did that, like, hey, would you introduce me to so and so? I think it does two things. Like, one, it plays upon your wantingness to like be helpful to your friends. So if like you see this thing and you're like, oh, like so and so might actually need that, like you want to make that connection. But the other kind of interesting thing that would happen is people would get like, oh, why isn't this guy reaching out to me? Why does he want to talk to that person? Don't you know I'm important too, and I might need this thing? So they would kind of get a little bit territorial, and they'd be like, oh, well, so and so, you don't need to talk to him, talk to me, and it was kind of like,
I
oh,
love
okay. So it was like a secondary prospecting thing. But
love
all right. Are you do you follow any like B2B influencers? Do you have a favorite?
that. I love Shelby Sapp right now.
Oh, let's go.
Yes, she is a female in the sales space, and she's just absolutely crushing it. I love watching her content.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
shows up every day.
I first found out about her on Reddit because I was looking for ideas of what to do a LinkedIn post, and people are like, "Has anybody seen this like sales girl?"
Yes,
Yeah, she's good. So that event that I sent you, that I emailed you about, the one in Vegas, she's actually invited to that. We're working on what it would take to get her out to that. So
oh, super, super.
yeah. All right. I thought one of your TikToks that I thought was super fascinating is you talked about on social about how you only date people that you know in the business world, or like I kind of understand that. Like I don't personally because I married my college sweetheart, so we've been together forever. But if you're like a young person and you're extremely driven, I imagine you're not meeting people outside of a business context much. Like,
Right.
you're going to networking events, you're, going to conferences, you're taking meetings, like you're going to mainly interact with people from a business perspective.
Yeah.
I can sympathize that like all my friends are from work, like all my best friends are from work, but just curious if that is a dynamic that you like, or that you recommend, or do you think that's a bad thing?
Dylan, I could do a whole other hour just about, seriously. Like, we should
Nice.
do another one because I could go all in.
Sure.
To summarize it, though, I would say um, it's a product of context and environment, like you said. Um, but there's also a sense of feeling really underwhelmed with men that aren't as ambitious as I am or
Yeah.
as career oriented as I am. Um, and also, I also converge with a type of guy that wants to dominate me,
Mm,
has a hard time doing so, right? So that's really just part of my personal journey right now. But I can guess that a lot of female entrepreneurs have the same problem.
mm. Yeah, that's interesting.
I hope
Well,
I figure out how to solve it so I can help other women.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm no expert whatsoever, and have no no context because I've been married for 17 years. And like my version of online dating was like AOL Instant Messenger in high school,
Love
right?
that.
So I have no context around the whole dating app thing, except that I helped on the marketing of Hinge, so I at least know, like, I know how they work.
Okay, I love Hinge.
Yeah.
Use Hinge,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Hinge was fun. It was like our whole thing was we want to be the app that you have to delete, right? Or like trying to get people to like get off the internet and go on a hike and stuff like that.
Yeah,
My friend Molly, who's a dear friend, who was the creative director at the time, and my client, she's gone on to found a non-alcoholic wine company called Buzzkill, and she's, no pun intended, killing it.
I love.
But yeah, it was just like the funnest team. The other part that I loved about working on Hinge was they gave no fucks. Like they would work with influencers that were canceled. They would work with people who cussed.
Yeah,
They would work with like meme pages. They were early to meme pages. Like they were like all in on like, doing things that were edgy, which was a lot of fun.
I love that. That is so cool.
Yeah. Well, all right. So my next question is, so, um, so what are you most excited about the future of the work that you're doing? Like, what is the next, what's the next 6 to 12 months look like for you?
So the next 6 to 12 months for me, aside from the work I'm doing with my fractional clients, I won't go into that. Um, I'm excited for the shift from software as a service to service as a software.
Hmm.
This is huge. It's going to be huge in the marketing space. I'm hoping to spearhead part of that. I know it's going to be huge in finance, health, insurance, all of the spaces, right? So, for anyone who's listening, just to clarify, software service is, you pay a certain amount of money each month for access to a software that improves your life or your business. So in this case, with service as a software, you're essentially, instead of paying for a service at a brick and mortar or where you have to interact with people, now you're paying for a service that acts as a software. So you're able to have the workflow of being online and having things come to you very quickly and easily, and it's much more simple and streamlined. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I've also heard a lot of like, software eats the world, like was the first, thing. And now it's like AI is eating the world is a
yeah,
big, a buzzword of like how AI is influencing and integrating every product that we use or work with or do business. Pretty interesting.
yeah, super. I
That's,
think it's the next big pivot. So it's exciting to see.
I love it. Well, Kate, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you making time late in Ohio on a Friday night for the show. I think I had a lot of fun doing the research on you, and loved talking about the college, no college, and the B2B socials and all the things. So I'm excited of the potential of staying in touch and maybe trying to find something to work on together.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
if people liked what they heard today, where can they find you and or get in touch if they want to reach out?
I would say first and foremost, go to Facebook and look up Kate Weatherly, Weatherly. Alternatively, if you want to get involved in my business, visit helloagilemarketing.com.
I love it. Now you open up a new question because Facebook's supposed to be the boomer social network, but that's
Yes,
your primary. So let's get back. Let's go back. What's your
so,
take? What's your take on Facebook and how are you using it?
so I have worked with, I won't go into the dirty details, but I've worked with a few sort of real estate investment firms. And
Mm,
this is how I knew Facebook was the real deal. People, Facebook is the tried and true of social media platforms right now. Um, really, like think about the evolution. It was MySpace, then it was Facebook, right? Facebook is like people feel safe on Facebook, right? People don't
mm.
feel judged like they do on LinkedIn. They feel like, oh, my friends are here, my family's here, my work network. It's a very like neutral zone. So that's where capital is raised. That's where deals are done. That's where people are actually doing business, in my opinion and in my experience, is on Facebook. So that's why it remains my big focus.
Wow, that's a hot take.
Yeah.
And I saw that was interesting because like your Facebook pops up pretty high on your Google results, which I thought was interesting. And I think I did connect with you there. And yeah, I could see that. I had to restart my Facebook after having like an OG college Facebook account.
Oh no.
Yeah, because I installed their stupid authenticator, Facebook authenticator, and then I changed phones. Didn't I wiped the old phone before I put on, and I didn't know you had to transfer those authenticators, so I'm like permanently locked out of my OG original Facebook account.
Oh,
So I had to start a new one, but I'm up to 500 friends again. And it's actually kind of cool to have to like restart. And you're right. Like Facebook is like, I don't follow any randoms on Facebook. It's only my like tight friends. If anybody's name pops up in Facebook that I can't remember them or I can't remember why, or even if they marry somebody and change their last name and I can't remember and their name isn't familiar to anymore, unfriend, gone. It's like
yeah.
if you're not my tight like known circle, you are not in my Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. The best way to put it is that Facebook feels so safe to people that you're closer to the end of the sales cycle, no matter what you're selling.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty cool. Well, you've got a lot of hot takes. I enjoyed this interview thoroughly. So, all right, guys, for those of you who are following along at home, thanks for joining us on a Friday night. If you enjoyed the show that I did with Kate today, don't forget to subscribe to the show. And if you would be so kind as to give us a review on wherever you're listening or watching the show, that's how we find a more organic audience. And most importantly, if there is a young entrepreneur out there, maybe a high school kid who's thinking about going to college, thinking about taking on a bunch of debt, thinking about taking on student loans to get a degree as a Native American basket weaving degree at some tier 3 school. Look at Kate, look what she's accomplished, maybe think twice. And or if there's any marketers out there that want to know how to do business marketing on social, Kate is definitely worth a follow across all the platforms that we talked about tonight. So Kate, thanks so much. Really appreciate you coming on the show.
So nice